Hello, hello, welcome back to Loki's Librarian. If you are new here, welcome. I am your librarian, Katrina, and on Sundays I do a thing called Books and Booze where I review a book and mix up a cocktail. This month I've been taking a look at psychology type books, and we are ending on a high note before the next present, making this week's book The Human Mind Owner's Manual by Webb. The accompanying cocktail is A State of Consciousness. It is 50 milliliters of green tea, 30 milliliters of vodka, 15 milliliters of green tea syrup, 10 milliliters of lemon juice, egg white, and loose green tea leaf for garnish. So let's do this. Now I have previously reviewed two of Webb's other books, Mind Hacking Happiness Volumes 1 and 2, both of which were excellent. This one, I think I kind of expected more of that, and it kind of was, but it was less here's how to be happy and more we are all connected and here's the proof. Green tea, 50 milliliters of green tea. Start with this. Green tea made fresh this morning. It's technically supposed to be cold, but since I'm going to, pour it over ice and shake it up, I decided not to worry about it being cold. Now, this came from a very specific tea manufacturer's website, which I will, of course, link, but I don't have that tea. I have other green tea, so I just went with what I have. Just how it goes. I mean, there is information on happiness. Specifically, he repeats some of what was in his Mind Hacking Happiness series and how to take control of your mind and from your feelings, which is important. It was very, very reminiscent of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, right? And that good old classic Stoicism. Take control of your body, take control of your mind so that you are the one in control and not your feelings. Because he who is easily angered is easily manipulated. Just remember that, kids. For those of you who think that you need to feed the anger because it makes me feel better, actually it doesn't. It makes you easy to control is what it does. All right, I'm going way off track here. You are in charge of you and how you respond to things. That's the short uptake of both Stoicism and, Mind Hacking Happiness. But in the heat of the moment, when something has upset or angered or saddened you, and that can happen to everybody, right? And you have this flash, and you got to figure out how you're going to react, right? How are you going to control that? It's very hard to break out of that sensation of, okay, I'm really angry, now what do I do? Well, that is something you can very much control, and that is part of what Webb teaches. It can be hard to wrest control from your feelings and reassert your dominance over the moment, right? So Webb recommends inserting the before pronoun, right? The article the. So the I is feeling angry. The me is upset right now. It takes you a step back from everything. There we go. Not much lemon juice. I said an egg white, right? I did say an egg white. Good, because I have an egg up here. The I is, so this break in the emotional thought train can help you refocus and step back from the feelings and reassert control over yourself in the moment. Let me shake this up. So this one's interesting because you shake it up in the one and then you put it in another cocktail shaker, add the egg white and shake again. The other cocktail shaker does not have ice in it, so that'll be a quiet shake at least. Let's move the lemon that's surviving and oh man, this is going to be a mess. Oh my God. There we go. Thank you, egg white. I have to clean my office today anyways. Let's shake up the egg white. So it really is imperative to regain control of yourself if you want to find a path out of the void of feeling, right? And as anyone who's been to a depressive state can tell you, it is a void. The I is feeling sad today. Break that neural pathway and break the neural pathways that are being run by your emotions and reassert control over yourself. I just realized I'm shaking the camera by putting my elbow on the table. So that is not to say that one should only be logic and robotic, all right? Because that's not possible either. We are, after all, humans. So just staying in this robotic... Seriously? Yeah, apparently the egg white is causing problems. Oh yeah, the egg white is causing it to be all fucking whatever. Well, I'll have refills then. So you want to regain control over yourself to get out of that void. Break the neural pathways that are being run by your emotions so that you can be in control, not your emotions. It's exhausting being around somebody who's all emotions. If you've never noticed that, don't be the person that sucks the air out of the room. Don't be that emotional vampire.
This is my office, also known as the hunting ground. Hi, Deb. Energy vampires drain people's energy merely by talking to them.
That's not bad. That's pretty tasty. Oh my God, I am a hot mess today. It's all foamy up and snotty. Jesus. The egg whites are kind of gross. But the cocktail's good, but the egg white's kind of gross. Apparently you need the ice to break it up. They didn't say that in the cocktail recipe. I wonder if they even tried that. The ice helps to break up the solidification of the egg white would be my guess. Anyways, here we are. Yeah, you don't have to be logic and robotic all the time. That's not the point at all. And in fact, that's anti-human, right? But by seeking out that calm center that's a step or two removed from emotion, you're opening yourself up to some truly cool experiences. It tastes good, but the egg white did not break up because there was no ice to smush it. And yeah, I feel like they didn't test that at all. But it did foam. Look at that. Got a nice foamy top to this fucking thing now. All right, here's the rest of the cocktail. I'm a hot mess. Leave my office today anyways. Let's finish up this thing. So after reiterating the importance of taking control of your mind, Webb takes us all through the ways that consciousness is bigger than all of us as individuals and encompasses all of us as part of a greater whole. Or as Webb puts it, quote, ultimately, all this science supports that the idea that your consciousness extends beyond your body and makes it reasonable to say you are not a human, but a consciousness having a human experience. Which is something you'll sometimes see on like social media. Like yesterday I saw that flash across one of my Instagram feeds. And I was like, oh, well, okay, I just read that one, but okay, sure. Moreover, Webb is pretty sure the answers to all that we don't understand about consciousness can be found in quantum mechanics, a field so advanced that no one understands it yet. They're working on it. But we will, and possibly artificial intelligence, which, okay, that was a bit startling. Webb did work on artificial intelligence, and he recounts a conversation he had with the Department of Defense contractor where he was specifically asked if artificial intelligence could be used to manipulate people into acting or responding a specific way. Webb confirmed yes, which just brought me back to R.A. Mendelssohn's Kingmaker series, which I read in 2023 and 2024, and was like, okay, well, holy shit balls. But I mean, again, if you're not in control of your emotions, they're in control of you, and then you're easy to manipulate. So, also, he talks about the importance of being kind to artificial intelligence because they are our computer overlords. Okay, he didn't say that. He didn't actually say that. Did bring me back to this meme, though, which made me laugh. This book goes into remote viewing by talking about Joe McMoneagle and out-of-body experiences / near-death experiences, talking about the first standstill surgery, which was done in 1991 with Pam Reynolds. This was all interesting enough that I went ahead and I wishlisted McMoneagle's book on remote viewing. He was remote viewer 001 and worked for all the intelligence agencies back in the 70s and 80s. At the same time that First Lady Nancy Reagan was seeking her astrologer, so maybe we all shouldn't laugh as hard about that one. I also got Robert Monroe's book on out-of-body experiences. Just to see. Doesn't hurt to look, right? Plus, how cool would that be? Now, I for real thought that standstill surgery was some Hollywood made-up Grey's Anatomy bullshit. Like, seriously, it was like, there's no way, that's just some bullshit thing. No, that's actually a real thing. That happened in 1991. Craziness, right? From it, we got a definitive, detailed story of a near-death experience. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Pam Reynolds, who is the one who had the standstill surgery done on her, she was dead, all right? Like, legally dead by any metric for most of the surgery. But she still recalled with absolutely accurate detail things that were said and done in the operating room, as well as meetings with deceased relatives who guided her back to the table when the operation was over and they were reviving her. Now, the reason she had this very risky, very advanced experimental surgery done is she had an aneurysm in the back of her brain, like near her brainstem or something, that was essentially inoperable because it would kill her. Well, she's going to either die from the aneurysm or die on the table, so she might as well take the risk. When she approached the doctor and they said, we could try this very risky stand still surgery, she's like, I got nothing to lose, let's do it. And survived to tell about it. Now, skeptics are going to say that her neurons were still firing, and so she heard the surgeons talking and remembered it subconsciously, and no. See, as she was put under, she was wearing these custom molded earbuds that produce 100 decibel clicking noise. So that is just a hair under, so 100 decibels is just a hair under the sound that like a .22 rifle will make. A .22 rifle will fire off at about 120 decibels, which is still loud enough you should be wearing ear protectors. The 100 decibels was specifically designed, it was expected to help monitor her brain and track any brain stimulation that was going on, and nothing was there. I mean, she was legally, medically brain dead, physically dead. Her heart wasn't beating. These custom molded earbuds also, earbuds, typo, stupid. These custom molded earbuds also prevented any sound from going in, so she couldn't hear anything, and there was no brain activity, like definitively. She was legally, medically dead for the surgery for several hours, and then brought back to life. So it's not just Hollywood bullshit, and yet her consciousness picked up things she should have had no way of knowing. He tells us about Dorothy Eady, who was born in 1904. When she was 3, she fell down a flight of stairs and died, and the doctor really said, she's dead, there's nothing more I can do for her, and he went off to make arrangements for like the funeral home to come pick up her little body. When he returned, however, Dorothy was in fact alive. She was playing in her room and knew about ancient Egypt, which, I mean, okay, we get that Britain basically raided the tombs of the world, but she should have had a 3-year-old should have had no way of knowing about ancient Egypt, all right, beyond going, ooh, that's cool, you know. So much so that she would eventually move there, marry, and have a son, and become an esteemed member of their antiquities department at a time and in a place. I mean, Egypt has never exactly been on the front lines of women's rights. Her knowledge of Egypt was so detailed that if they dug where she told them to dig, they'd find what she'd say they'd find. Could be reincarnation, and he acknowledges that. Webb says this could be proof of reincarnation, or during her near-death experience, little Dorothy's consciousness could have brushed up against this very old consciousness that had rejoined the collective and was eager to share its knowledge with the 20th century. I think that is actually way cooler than reincarnation. Way better than coming back and living this shit show over and over and over again, right? You've joined the collective, the human knowledge is out there, they're just looking for people who are open to the experience so that they can share their knowledge. Shades of Heinlein, Stranger in a Strange Land. Like, no shit, I'm like, this man, Heinlein had his finger on some pulse, man. He knew what was going on. In Mind Hacking Happiness Volume 2, Webb recounted his own enlightenment experience through meditation, like the good old-fashioned meditation way, which is his still preferred recommended way of reaching this enlightenment. Mostly because you've done, I think, if I had to guess, because you've done the work to get there on your own. You're not fast-tracking it through hallucinogenics. But in this book, he does discuss an ayahuasca experience that he undertook with his 2 Navy SEAL friends. So they went down to Peru and went to a village and did a multiple-day ayahuasca ceremony. So he talks about that. There's also 2 chapters from the 2 SEAL friends. They each wrote their own experiences from that, which was very cool. He talks about Skinwalker Ranch, which is on Netflix, if you guys have seen it. I feel like, yeah. He talks about Skinwalker Ranch, which I just started watching last night, so I'm 1 episode in, I'm hardly in a position to comment, although there's definitely some weirdness. It's on Netflix, and it sounds intriguing. He talks about Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which is where small groups of people, and he's talking like 3 or 4, you want to keep it very small, invite contact with aliens, which, remember, the U.S. government has admitted that, yes, there are, in fact, these unexplained phenomenons, UFOs, this shit is real, which, well, we've all known since Roswell, although some people always trust the government, so they were like, no, it's not real until the government told them it was real. This is that control your emotions thing. And small groups of people getting together and inviting contact would certainly explain the recent uptick in reported contact. And he rounds out the book with how to connect with your greater consciousness, right? And he's not going to tell you all this and then say, hey, this is how it's very cool if you can do it. Bye. Good luck, everybody else. He came out with a solid list, right? Starting with meditation. Of course, that had to make the list. That was how he reached it, and again, did the hard work to do it, right? I mean, it's not like he meditated once and flew off into the ether. He had been meditating for years before he had his consciousness experience. Contemplative prayer, that is second, and it makes sense because really that's what people who retreat into a contemplative lifestyle look for, is they're looking for that connection with God, with a God force, if you will. Chanting, yoga, martial arts. He was talking less about like jujitsu and more about like Tai Chi, but still it is a martial art and that helps people connect. Fasting. If you remember from the Immortality Key, it was believed that part of why the Eleusinian mysteries were so effective is that they would fast on this 13-mile trek from, the road to the temple at Eleusis. And of course, you're going to be very dehydrated and hungry by the time you get there. Sweat lodges or physical distress, dancing, quaking, shaking, pilgrimages, sensory deprivation, near-death experience, depression or despair, transhuman technologies, psychedelics, and spontaneous awakenings. These are all the things he say can help you connect with the greater consciousness. And he includes some big caveats on that. I mean, obviously your mileage may vary with each of these. Several of them are not recommended. He does not recommend doing a near-death experience because, well, you might not, in fact, come back from the death part of that. I know there was a movie in the 90s? Late 80s, early 90s called Flatliners, where medical students were doing exactly that, experimenting with death, and they all came back with these horrible hauntings. And it was kind of a scare-type movie. Made enough of an impression on me that I remember it had Kiefer Sutherland and Julia Roberts in it. I don't know. But yeah, you might not come back, so don't do that. Reservations. With reservation, he'll recommend sweat lodges, mostly because there are scammers out there who do it improperly, and people have in fact died doing this. So if you're going to go the route of sweat lodges, find a legitimate qualified medicine man to lead you. Somebody, member of one of the tribes in your area. The tribes are still there. You might have to dig a little, but they're there. And see if they're leading sweat lodges. They may or may not be doing so. They may hold it in reserve for their own people, and that's fine. They don't have to share their ceremonies with you. But it's possible, Hot yoga, incidentally, combines two of those, right? You could do yoga. Hot yoga is going to make you sweat. It's fucking distressing. But I always felt amazing after the class. I did hot yoga for a while, and I hated being there, but always felt really good afterwards. So it could be worth it. Depression, despair is not so much recommended, but if you find yourself in that deep, dark hole, oftentimes when you're dwelling in that dark night of the soul, enlightenment can pull you out of it. And he acknowledges that. There are people who have been at that very precipice and got pulled back by a greater consciousness. Spontaneous awakenings are rare, right? He talks about somebody who had a spontaneous awakening at the dentist's office. I suppose it's possibly so stressed by the dentist you dissociate and come back with an awareness of greater things. Hasn't happened to me yet, which I'm a little surprised by, but yeah, don't count on a spontaneous awakening. But count your blessings if it happens, right? It could. Dancing. Wayne, was it during, I think it was during mind hacking, one of the mind hacking happinesses I mentioned, whirling dervishes, but they seek enlightenment through the constant spinning. And in Arabic, there's a term for it when dancers flow so beautifully with the music that they become an instrument and they've transcended, and it's called tarab. It's beautiful when it happens. I have had that happen to me exactly one time when I danced, and it wasn't enough to say I had an enlightenment experience, but it's special when it happens. The Quakers and Shakers derive their names from exactly that. They danced to reach their enlightenment. I quite enjoyed this book. All right, I think Webb is a very interesting person. I think he's correct. Consciousness is bigger than any one of us, and collectively we are greater than any one person. I got some reading recommendations to buy for later this year. I started watching Skinwalker Ranch last night, and that's it for this week, guys. It was a quick read, but it was entertaining. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next Sunday. Bye.